The year 1898 would forever change the course of human history. What initially appeared to be a strange and almost beautiful celestial phenomena in the form of falling stars ended in the almost total extermination of the entire British nation itself, and quite possibly the rest of the world. It was during this year that the people of Earth first encountered the invaders from the planet Mars and their terrible war machines. The Martians, having constructed a mysterious transportation system that utilized giant bullet-like cylinders, these creatures had crossed the inky void of space and had begun their invasion in the area near London, England. Once their large cylinders had crashed violently through the atmosphere to their destinations, the invaders had set about constructing their numerous war machines and devices, primarily the now infamous and very feared Martian tripod. These massive walkers, huge in stature and able to move elegantly on 3 enormous legs and capable of wielding a bizarre array of alien weaponry, set about the extermination and soon after consumption of the native populace. This wasn't to say that England was not well defended, of course. British troops, as well as the forces of the Royal Navy, engaged the Martians throughout the course of the invasion, on land and by sea. However, their efforts were swept aside by the Martians' military might, and through heat ray and black smoke, the mightiest of the Empire's war machines were swept aside, were scattered as if they were nothing but children's toys. All seemed lost, the invincible invaders seemingly left to their own devices, to feed on the populace of England, as well as beginning to, whether intentionally or not, altering the landscape to their own whims, primarily through the form of ravenous forests of the so-called red weed, a mysterious red growth resembling earth vines soon began to spread throughout the countryside, dyeing the land as blood red as Mars. It was at this lowest point, however, that the unbelievable occurred. The once invincible Martian war machine and their monstrous tripods soon began to slow, then seize, and then finally die. As the survivors of the numerous Exodus ships returned to the English countryside, as well as those who had weathered the storm of the initial attacks, the human populace had discovered that the Martians had died. Referred to as Dead London, referring to the city of London itself, the metropolis was full of the dead remains of the invaders, slumped over and being fed on by various birds and carrion, their mighty tripods and machines silenced. Not brought low by English cannon, but they had died due to the efforts of the smallest of Earth's defenders, the common germ. As the Martians had fed and plundered, they had come under attack by the various illnesses and diseases that had ravaged humanity throughout the ages, in which they had no defense. The Martian attack of 1898 brought terrible devastation to the city of London and set the course of human history upon an altogether unexpected path. Among the ruins of the greatest metropolis on Earth, the Martians had, in the end, faltered and perished. Everyone now knows that the invaders were overcome not by the might of Queen Victoria's armies, but by nature's own forces of disease and decay. Against these mere microbes, the Martians' superior minds could muster no defense. Where mankind had failed, the smallest and least significant of all of Earth's organisms had triumphed. Although the Martian invasion shocked the world and caused widespread panic in the days that followed, by the early years of the 20th century, many influential thinkers were eager to proclaim the aliens a spent force. These world leaders, industrialists, and intellectuals argued that the Martians had expended the last of their dying energy in a futile attempt to conquer Earth. Their case appeared to gain credibility as the years passed. Careful observation of Mars revealed no discernible signs of life. With the passing of time, the horrors that had befallen London faded from memory. Fear of further alien attack was gradually displaced by the humdrum concerns of life and commerce. It is sobering to reflect that most people were happy to accept this misguided notion. as we now know it to have been. The threat of further Martian aggression was simply too horrific and too remote to worry about. In short, the vast majority quailed at the mere thought of a second invasion, choosing to dismiss the possibility rather than acknowledge the potential danger. All over the world, only a few visionaries continued to warn that the first attack might have been a scouting foray, the precursor to a full-scale invasion. They urged humanity to ready itself for war or risk extermination. These men were commonly ridiculed and all too dismissed as alarmists and cranks. Few even noticed the second wave of Martian cylinders that fell to Earth sometime around the end of 1908. Whether by chance or, as now seems more likely, deliberate intent, the invaders landed unseen in arid and far-flung regions of the world. The Martians established themselves secretly in places devoid of significant habitation or such aids to civilization as the telegraph and wireless. The vast empty spaces of the American Southwest, Africa, South America, Australia, and the Asiatic steppes provided ideal refuge from which to prepare an attack. As more cylinders landed in the wilderness, the aliens slowly and methodically began to construct their war machines. By the time the Martian presence came to the attention of the governments of Earth, it was already too late. The invaders struck simultaneously from their redoubts across the globe. The war between mankind and alien, the battle for Earth that we now know as the Martian War, had begun. That war continues to this day, more than 6 years on, as the year 1914 draws to an end and humanity looks to an uncertain and terrifying future. Much of the planet fell at once to the Martian attack and remains entirely under their control even now. Little information comes from these blighted lands. It is impossible to know if enclaves of human resistance still linger in the cities of South America, the depths of Africa, or the coasts of Australia. However, it seems increasingly unlikely. As far as we know, these continents are now entirely lost to mankind. In the regions where the invaders rule unopposed, the Martian red weed spreads across the land, choking the native vegetation and coloring mountains, jungles, and deserts a ghastly blood-red hue. Up to this present day, Europe remains entirely free of the invaders, as do the islands of Japan, much of southern Asia, and the subcontinent of India, where the Himalayas stand as natural bulwarks against the alien menace. The battle lines are drawn across the steppes of Russia, the deserts of the Middle East, and the plains of China, where the gallant Japanese have now taken a lead in the war against the Martians. For reasons that can only be guessed at, the Martians avoid the seas. The world's oceans remain secured by human navies, affording what is, for now at least, a safe highway for the passage of reinforcements and communications. Of the original landing sites, only North America has not fallen completely to the enemy. This is due to the endeavors of the armies and navies of the United States and the ingenuity of American industry. Much of the Southwest succumbed to the enemy during the initial attack, dividing the country into two heavily defended bastions, west of the Rocky Mountains and east of the Mississippi River. The war has continued ever since. Only following the two crucial battles of St. Louis in the spring of 1914 does the Martian assault appear to have lost its unstoppable momentum. Perhaps the Martians have finally reached the limit of their resources. Maybe they have retired behind the crater-like walls of their redoubts to build their strength for another strike. Either way, the momentary peace is a welcome respite for the fighting men of America, and a chance to prepare for the battle to come. For this moment at least, after 6 long years of war, all is quiet on the Martian front. The following map displays the territories occupied by the Martians and the American forces on the American continent, as well as several key battles that have taken place across the continent. The North American theater of the Martian War. Additionally, crossed swords represent these key battles. Battle of Salt Lake City, Martian victory. Also known as the Salt Lake Massacre, there are no known human survivors of this Martian victory. Battle of Tucson, Martian victory. This Martian victory saw the first confirmed appearance of the dreaded Overseer tripod in combat. Battle of Calgary, Martian victory. The Canadian army is nearly destroyed by the Martians as they push north. Battle of Denver, Martian victory. The last of the U.S. Western armies is destroyed and falls back to defend the passes in the Sierra Madre, finally stopping the Martian advance. This is known as the Endless Retreat. Battle of Tulsa, Martian victory. The U.S. Army is nearly destroyed to a man in the first big resistance battle against the Martians. Battle of Shreveport, Martian victory. The battle made famous for the last stand of the 91st and the closing of the Louisiana Gap. Battle of Memphis, Martian victory. Memphis is destroyed as tripods attack across the Mississippi River. Battle of St. Louis, U.S. victory. The U.S. Army drives the Martians out of St. Louis. It is the first major U.S. victory. The effort is heavily supported by riverine operations of the U.S. Navy. Battle of Chicago, BEF, U.S. victory. The first use of land ironclads defeats the Martians north of Chicago, near Milwaukee, and pushes the Martians back from the ruined city by the combined efforts of U.S. Army and British expeditionary forces.